This week on Two Noobs, director Christopher Nolan validates the fact that I still buy Blu-rays while all you suckers relying on streaming are part of the problem. Then, I'm a very lonely man. Apparently, The Who wants to fix that, and I'm not talking about Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend. Next, Thanksgiving apparently makes people stupid. Find out why ER visits go up after dinner. Finally, we jam it in there on the NFL, and we talk retired quarterbacks who weren't happy, and the Eagles cutting a player eligible for AARP. Shopping season starts now. Start the music. With that, we welcome you to episode 165 of Two Noobs Talking. We are sitting here more confused than the Dallas Cowboys, thinking they need to impress the BCS by beating down Division II teams, because this guy's back here.
Yeah.
They didn't fire me.
No.
I was not fired.
Why would we fire you, Johnny? Come on now.
There were rumors out there. If I would have missed another week, my people would have assumed.
Well, it was where in the world was John Tracy? That's what we were trying to locate and find you, man.
Funny story.
Where you were.
For my prep back, I was watching another wrestling podcast that I stopped watching for a minute, and they had a new guy on, and I started to giggle because I'm like, where the hell did the other guy go? So I had to do an internet search to find out. And found out that he actually got fired from that podcast. And has his own podcast, and I was like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, the important question is, do you remember what we're doing?
No, absolutely not. I didn't know what we were doing before I left.
All right. Well, Matt and I'll just have to drag you along as usual. It's just
let's go.
Kicking and screaming.
Yeah,
why not?
In case you forgot, this, I think I'm pointing the right way, is Journey John Tracy. Over there is Metallica, Matt Craig. And I in the middle, I am Sex Pistols, Steve Murray.
Yeah.
Oh my.
See why I've been friends with him for so long?
Oh my gosh.
Well, John, you've been
gone
for 2 weeks.
Man.
Yeah, that was out there. You've been gone for 2 weeks traveling. We're glad to have you back. How are you doing, sir?
I am fine. I'm glad to be home. Missed the state of Texas a little bit, being on that East Coast, but I did get to visit one of my favorite towns of all time, or cities, Chattanooga, Tennessee, on my way back. So it's always good. I like Tennessee, so I got to hang out.
Any of that $8 mayonnaise?
No. It's more.
Funny thing about Chattanooga, what I love about that team is like they got a great minor league team called the Chattanooga Lookouts. I think it is.
Yes, they do.
And they've got the eyeballs kind of going like,
Yeah,
I would love to wear a jersey like on the Chattanooga Lookouts. Are you kidding me? That would be kind of cool.
Next time I go to Chattanooga, I'll have to hook you up.
There you go. Yeah.
You have to. I need to ask Glenn this. There's I forget if it's a minor league baseball or hockey team near where he is, and the name is ridiculously stupid.
I don't remember what it was.
I was
in and around Glen. Most of my drives where I was staying a little too far to kind of try to hook up with them because I was like staying like 2.5 hours outside. But the way I had to work, I was getting real close to them, but then it was like only for like 3 hours. I was completely far away from them again. I missed an opportunity to see some friends because of how far away I was. It kind of sucked. But hey, what can you do?
Well, it is important to have a Glen Murray buffer zone, Johnny. I mean, that's what's most important.
I like Glenn, unlike you. So
you're saying that because you're thinking. Sounds like I'm hating the guy. I don't hate the guy. Okay, I just want to make that very clear. I'm
just saying. I like Glenn more than you. I just know that. I'm sure Glenn knows that too.
Glenn, that is not true. I just want to make that very clear. That is not true. I just don't like the fact that you root for the Dallas Cowboys and the Duke Blue Devils. That's the only reason. That's the only gripe I have towards you there, bud. Otherwise, you're a great human being. There you go. That's all.
Comment.
Glenn, you're free to do whatever you want. I'm not going to judge you for anything. There, I rest my case.
There you go.
There you go. Mr. Craig, what is going on with you in the KFP, sir?
Yeah, man. What's happening? Everything's good. Thanksgiving is sadly over. We had a great holiday, of course, with the fam, and yeah, it was just wonderful. And just been loafing about here the last couple of days and firing up the old Two Noobs for episode 165 with you guys. It's great. And yeah, just getting into that holiday spirit. Already the Christmas tree is up. So I put that
Nice.
together last night and decorated with some ornaments, and still got some other things I got to do. But
Oh, just one?
yeah, just one.
Yeah, we've probably got 5 or 6 up now. I have nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Really? You have hired staff to come in and help build it, or what do you do there?
My wife puts up all these trees. I am only responsible for the big family tree in the living room.
There you go.
Everything else I have zero responsibility for.
Hmm.
And they look fantastic when they're done, but it takes about a month to get them all up.
Yeah, I'd like to know, like, where the heck you store them. That's my question. You know, it's kind of
Yes,
probably
that is
like
also my question.
There you go. A mystery for another time,
Yeah,
perhaps.
mystery for another time. And speaking of my question, I have a question for the fun fact,
Yes.
which is brought to us by Dubby Energy Drinks. Visit dubby.gg. That's DUBBY, like Tubby, but with a D.
Yes.
.gg. Enter the promo code Too Noobs Talking, TOONOO BZZ Talking. Get 10% off your order. I'm sure they've got holiday flavors Matt could tell you all about when he drops them off at your house with a flaming bag of dog poo.
And don't be a
smile.
Cowboys fan because he will slap you.
Exactly. He hates your guts. Well, Mr. Tracy, you are back with the fun fact. We're so happy
Yes.
to have it because Matt and I had a devil of a time with it. So you,
I'm sure you
have
guys
the
did
floor,
too.
sir.
Thank you. So this comes to me a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't deliver it because I was not on the episode. So I found out a couple weeks ago that a 1979 study found that reported human bites in New York City reached 892. Human to human bites, like people biting each other. Okay. This was in 1977 that this happened. In 1977, that was 63 times the amount of recorded shark to human bites worldwide.
Is that an
So
oh my
human-
comment or
Human to human in New York City only. Was that
Yeah,
right?
892 in the year 1977. 63 times the amount of shark to human bites worldwide.
wow?
I am willing to bet that number has dramatically increased
Yes.
in the last 40 or so years.
Not the shark bites.
The human to human bites. I rest
Yeah.
my case on New York City. Thank you very
See,
much.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
help.
There you go. Goodness.
See, this is the kind of stuff we're missing, man. I had to do a headless chicken 2 weeks ago.
And banging your head against the
Which was
wall
epic.
for an hour.
Matt went all jackass on us last week. And I had to put in the legal disclaimer not
Don't
to
do
go
it.
bang your head as a weight loss strategy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just the world we live in.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
All right, well, now we're going to the over 40 rant, also brought to you by W, because I neglected to mention that. Interesting one this week, gentlemen, because we all want to crap on the Dallas Cowboys, who, having beaten the Giants twice and the Washington Commanders and the Carolina Panthers, their fans are ready to crown them as Super Bowl champions. Although I don't think Glenn actually has some common sense.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
But others who I've seen in both the media and just regular fans seem to be having swollen heads about the recent success of the team. And I want to open it up to the floor. Are you guys as frustrated with all this as I am? It just seems to me that people don't seem to see the big picture when it comes to what the Cowboys are currently doing and what they think it means. I'll throw it to John first because he just said yes.
Yes, absolutely, yes, absolutely.
I need more. It's a rant. It's a rant. So.
Quick disclaimer on this rant. CeeDee Lamb is a proud member of my fantasy team, and I do not have an issue with Dak throwing to him when they're up 175-0. Please get me more points. I want to win. But in traditional football, being a fan of the team that is better in that division, I'm tired of not like I listen to him all the time, but I did hear Skip Bayless shortly after the game, and I do a lot of this when I hear it from them. I just close my phone and I go do something else because it just jumps on my feed for no reason, and I don't want to hear it. But he wants to make Dak the second best quarterback to Mahomes so bad that he just annihilates other quarterbacks in his way. Like, oh, well, Jalen Hurts didn't do this, or he hasn't done this, or he hadn't done this, but Dak threw for 400 yards 12 times in games where he was up 28 points. Yes, he did throw he outscored Jalen Hurts when they played. He out-yardaged him, but he didn't win. Like, I don't understand the media bias to it. It just doesn't make any sense.
That's what I mean when you don't look at the big picture, right? Why did Dak have to throw for 400 yards? Because they were trailing a lot of that game.
Yes.
Including in the second half.
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to have to throw the ball because you're down 2 scores. You need to get yardage in large chunks, and their running game is non-existent.
Only if you throw it to CeeDee Lamb, though. I'm against it any other time. Well,
Jalen Hurts didn't have to throw as much in that game because they were up already.
Yes.
Now, the offensive play calling got a little bit too conservative on the Eagles' side in that fourth quarter.
Yeah,
I thought.
Which we do.
You still didn't need Jalen Hurts throwing the ball down the field, right? At that point, you're up 28-17 or whatever. You don't need to take shots.
For people that don't understand, the difference between the Eagles and the Cowboys is they need to throw the ball. That's how they win. That's how they score. We have a luxury of having a quarterback that can throw the deep ball. We don't need it. We don't need it all the time. We are small to intermediate passing offense that has a decent run game and a hog ass offensive line. We don't need the bomb. We throw the bomb for fun, or when we're desperate and we need it, we throw it.
Yeah, like when you need to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm glad you brought up Skip Bayless, because Skip Bayless was the one after the Eagles-Cowboys game.
Yep.
Dak, he showed that he could show up in those championship moments.
Nope.
Did he, though?
Nope.
When it all came down to it, did he win you the game? No. He stepped out of bounds, unforced, on a 2-point conversion.
Yep.
He took a sack. He took 3 sacks, actually, in the last 2 series.
Yep.
Which were ill-advised. And he threw short of the end zone on the final play of the game.
That's funny. Championship moments. What exactly have the Dallas Cowboys made the Super Bowl? Since 95, right? Was the last time?
96 maybe, but I'm senile. I can't remember that long ago. So
yeah, I think VCRs were still functioning, I think, back then.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Just want to make that, just curious, because they haven't been to an NFC Championship game
since that time.
Before even the Blu-ray was even invented, was even conceived. It was all about like dial-up internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Dial-up internet. Okay, I just wanted to make that clear. I just want to make that clear for Skip Bayless out there, who says that he's winning all these championship moments all over the place. It must be fascinating to live in a alternate timeline where
did you see him throw for 400 yards against the Giants?
I just find it fascinating that we're living in one reality, he's living in some other reality over here it doesn't even exist. I mean, that's just something that I who knows?
It's just a shame Shannon Sharp's not there anymore to knock him down and be like, Skip.
Yes.
No.
Well, no, he had to get a new piece that would agree with him more, so it wouldn't look so negative and volatile. He had to, make a change because nobody wanted to watch him.
Matt, what do you think about them leaving Dak Prescott in up 3 scores with 6 minutes to go in a half, and he's still throwing 40-yard bombs? Like, does that make sense to you?
No, it doesn't. But then again, I mean, they're trying to prove a point. I guess, to themselves.
Yeah, it had to be to themselves because you're not trying to prove anything to
That's the only
else.
way to hype that fan base up, because inevitably when either they face the 49ers or us or any other NFC team in the divisional round, they will fail. That's just who they are. They'll hype themselves up and, they'll hype their fan base up really good. But when the truth comes out and the light gets shined, the cockroaches will all run away. And they'll go run and hide. And I mean, that
includes
exactly
the 49ers because they do the same stuff.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, San Francisco has actually had success in this century.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I even say even the millennia. I mean, I'm not, I'm just stating facts here,
Yeah,
just trying to.
It's been a
But
while.
they've
I think we should calm down a little bit.
Super Bowls. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. Should just
they've
try
been
and
there.
pump the
They
brakes
haven't
a
won it
little.
all, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the 49ers record is against winning teams. They've at least beat one winning team. We know that, beating the Cowboys. But
Yes.
Yeah.
what was the record of the opponents the Cowboys have beaten this year? Was what, like 21-58 or something?
25 and
something like
58. 25
Yeah.
and 58.
Yeah.
And they're 0-2 or 0-3 against teams with actual winning records.
Losses to the 49ers and Eagles, and they also lost to the Cardinals week 2.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
They lost to
That was
Jonathan Gannon.
Was Gannon a winning team at that time?
No.
Jonathan Gannon. You guys lost to Jonathan Gannon, one of the worst defensive coaches in the NFL right now. Terrible. And you lost to him. So let's just pump the brakes if you're Dallas.
And
I'm
just for
saying,
Dallas
let's pump
fans,
the brakes a little.
the reason we won with Jonathan Gannon as our defensive coordinator because our offense was so good we couldn't lose to our own defensive coordinator. He tried every week, but we couldn't lose. That's how good the Eagles are. Jonathan Gannon couldn't beat us, and he was on our team.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough of the trash in Dallas. We got that out of our system now.
Yes.
So we're gonna move to topic 1 and another rant of mine, which now has the legitimacy of being backed by one of the good directors of our time,
Absolutely.
Christopher Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
He said recently at a screening of his most recent movie, Oppenheimer, which I still have yet to see. I have to get to that at some point. But he said at that screening, it's important to own the film on Blu-ray so that, quote, no evil streaming service can come steal it from you.
Yep.
He said
I
that
love how he said evil streaming service. Streaming service, yes.
I'm glad he said that.
I totally agree with that. To be perfectly honest, I love the fact, gents, that when you're talking about this, the physical copy has so many other special features, right? You have the behind the scenes footage, usually and things along those lines. If it's really in depth, But if you get like a trilogy,
that are really kind of bare bones, but you're right. Yeah,
Right.
Usually they'll have something.
But my point is, like, if you throw it on a streaming service, you just see it on the movie, and there's no insight, there's nothing. It just comes and it goes, and that's pretty much it. But the physical copy, I'm all in favor. I love it. I love it for the fact that he's pushing this and want this. I don't know, guys.
That stretches even in the music with me. One of my favorite collector items that I have is Korn's 8th album, which is called The 8th Album. It has a documentary on it on them creating the album. It's even I hold that more near and dear than I do the actual album because I got to see the process and it made me love the album so much more. Like I liked a couple songs on there, but man, I got to watch them in the studio, and I did that with many movies that I owned throughout time, watching the trailers and the interviews about certain things. Like that's what movies are to me. I want to watch you write it, you give it to me, but I also want to know more about it. So I love
John leaning over a writer as he's like writing out a scene.
No, definitely not. Give it to me as you want it. I don't want to judge at all. But I like to get those behind the scenes that, like the Star Wars trilogy when it came out again, when they had an interview with Lucas, when he was just talking about little things, little like things that I couldn't put that in because we didn't have kind of the technology to do that. And then when we remastered it, we were able to kind of achieve what I was looking for. That, to me, that's my, like, you don't get that on a streaming service. I hate having to go on that streaming service, be like, oh, do I have enough time in this week to watch this movie because they're going to steal it from me next week? Oh, it looks like I don't get to see that movie because I don't have time to do it. They're taking like 6 things off of Peacock this week that I haven't had time to watch. And so I lose out because they
that's
have
what
the minimal
Nolan was
deal.
really talking about. That's what Nolan was really talking. I mean, I get Matt's point that it's great to have all those extra features and cool stuff to watch. I especially like when you have like a cartoon and they show you the people doing the voices behind the cartoon. I always think that's kind of cool to see them doing the process. It's neat. But what Nolan was really talking about is exactly what John said, which is, and this is his quote, there is a danger these days that if things only exist in the streaming version, they do get taken down. They come and go. And you're exactly right. The streaming services will pull stuff, and I don't know what the rhyme or reason is to it. They will pull stuff down, and you won't be able to find it anywhere for a long time.
And
to me, the main reason I like to have the physical copies is, God forbid, Netflix or whoever. I don't have any of the streaming services,
Hulu,
but if I get
whatever.
one of them takes it down, I know I can't watch it.
No,
I'm
with you, John.
I've had experiences where there's a movie I want to see. It's an older movie. I don't have the DVD or whatever, so I go, well, is it on my Fios on demand? And if I'm lucky, sometimes I'll find it. But if not, well, now I got to figure out another way to see it. Because
you pull it up maybe on YouTube, I guess. But I mean, even then, it's very rare that you find that. Really,
we still actively buy DVDs for movies that we really want to see or movies that we want to collect that are in the series. Right. We absolutely still. We'll probably never get off that gravy train. We're just, me and my wife are just that age where the physical copy is important. And we do have the streaming services, but I get what Nolan's saying, because it's probably one of the reasons I won't deep dive into these streaming services, because I think you're full of shit. You promote these things so much, and then I'm not a big it's time to watch, oh, it's going to premiere. I'm not like running in front of, to watch it. I'm kind of lazy when I'll get around to watching it, but I'm not, it's not my life goal to watch it. And I feel screwed half the time because I'm getting ready to watch it, and it's like, it's only there for 2 days. Like, great. So now it's put pressure on me. Like, I don't know. The old Netflix was cooler before, the communists took over, when you had anything that you wanted, anytime you wanted it. It was more successful back then, because just watch it when I wanted to watch it.
Well, Netflix really went downhill when they started doing their own documentaries.
Oh, yeah.
And their documentaries were weird. They were some of the weirdest documentaries. Yeah, they really did.
This chicken.
Yeah, I mean,
8-minute documentary series.
Aaron Hernandez. I told you guys about it. The Aaron Hernandez one, right?
A couple. Yeah, I saw that. I watched that one. That was
weird.
Yeah,
really strange.
Was it?
I'm like,
Matt, did you feel Netflix was saying he was guilty or innocent? Because that's what I got the whole time. They were towing a line that a documentary probably shouldn't tow, of a guy who murdered a bunch of people.
Definitely conflicted.
Yeah, it felt a little weird.
Yeah, no doubt. It was just, it was a bizarre, it was really just a tale of like a bizarre life led, to be honest. I mean, Johnny, with you in that regard. But yeah, I love that Nolan said it. And okay, so my question then to you both is there an ulterior motive here by Nolan? Because he has always loved the physical copy. He has always loved shooting in not digital format. He loves like the long, your typical films, IMAXs. Do you think there's any sort of like, there's some ulterior motive that Chris Nolan, he just wants to have this because blah, 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 blah. He doesn't like the streaming services.
I do temper my feelings on this, because I do happen to know that as a director or actor or whatever, you will probably make more money off of sales of physical copies than you do streaming.
Yeah, sure.
So there is you know, there is an undercurrent of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he said exactly what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
which is if I want to see a movie, I want to be able to watch it, like John says, when I want to watch it, not when you tell me I'm allowed to watch it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's not really that much different than how Disney used to like take their movies and put them in the vault. And so you'd have to find some rare out of print VHS if you wanted to
Let
watch
the dust collect.
Right. And then they would say, okay, you could buy The Lion King on DVD for 3 weeks. And now we're taking it off the shelf.
Yes, on
They
the
dust
50th
it off.
anniversary for a large quantity of money, and then we will snatch it from you again. And throw it back in the vault.
Exactly.
It's like, how
So when
dare
Lion
you?
King came out on Blu-ray, I'm like, shit, I better scoop that up before they pull it off again, you know?
Yeah.
But see, this
all
is the monkey see, monkey do of the world. Is now Netflix and Hulu and all them are just following that Disney protocol of people will spend more money. They will do what we say if we keep it just here. And I want to get rid of that in the world. I'd rather just own it, and who cares if everybody else knows I own it or not, or if I'm watching. I want it when I want it, kind of thing.
But there's a big difference between what Disney was doing and what the streaming services do, which is, at least with Disney, if you went out and bought it, you now had it forever.
Yeah.
And you could watch it whenever you want to watch it. The streaming service is, here it is. Oh, you got to be quicker than that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you got to be quicker than that. And once they take it off, you can't get it anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, so that's, to me, is the big issue. And I should also bring up, I do the same thing as John said, music wise. I buy CDs still.
Yeah.
And
God bless you.
It's not so much of an issue of a streaming service is going to pull music, because that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's very rare.
That's more if, God forbid, my hard drive that I have the digital stuff stored on crashes. I have physical backup copies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I will not
absolutely.
lose them.
Oh, but Steve, you could save them out in the cloud. You know, you don't have to always have the physical copy. You have it saved out in the cloud.
Yeah.
No.
Save out in the cloud where I pay a monthly subscription.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah,
if you say something wrong, they might lose your password.
The CDs are under my control, under my physical lock and key.
Yeah.
They are mine. No one can take them away from me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's a really good example for you. I think it was a photo service. I don't forget if it was Yahoo.
Okay.
Whoever it was, there was a service that was online that had photos, and the website went under.
Yep.
I'll see.
And unless you knew to go in there and move everything somewhere else, poof, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when you say the cloud, that's my concern with the cloud. Well, what if your cloud service decides to go belly up?
And clouds coming. Oh, by the way, clouds go away. You know,
it just happened to us with an Amazon Fire tablet. There was we didn't check our email for the Amazon thing, but it had warned us a couple times, if you do not put a credit card on a child's tablet, that they were going to wipe the tablet. So what happens one day, child wakes up, nothing on the tablet. I get home, I factory reset the tablet, download some games for him and everything like that, and my wife checks the email, and it's they wiped the tablet of all the free games. They were free games. They weren't purchased games. Because we refused to, and I refused to do it. I'm not putting a credit card on a child's tablet. There's no reason for that. There's no logical reason anybody could tell me that that's a good idea. Ever.
Yeah, because guess what the kid's going to do, right? He's going to, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this.
That's exactly why they want to do it.
But even if I don't think the kid would ever do that. But what is the point of having
intentionally
would not do that. But what is the point of a credit card on a child's tablet? I mean, nobody can make it make sense to me.
So the child can accidentally order something.
Yeah.
It was use your charge. Your credit card was on there.
It's the same stuff. It's the same system running across the board in these little nooks and crannies. They're just here to piss us off, basically. Well, I don't have Netflix anymore. And you know what? I haven't cried a tear since I got rid of Netflix. So
there you go.
I haven't woken up in the middle of the night. Man, I wish I had it. It was overpriced anyway.
Oh, I dreamt that we lost Netflix. Oh my God, what a nightmare.
Oh, I really wanted to see that Aaron Hernandez story all over again. Oh my God.
Well, this was a Variety article that we found out about this. They also quote Guillermo del Toro. So Christopher Nolan wasn't the only one touting physical media. Guillermo del Toro said, if you own a great 4K HD, Blu-ray or DVD, et cetera, of a film or films you love, you are the custodian of those films for generations to come.
Yes,
there you go.
Absolutely.
So if I want to show my kid some film that I loved as a child, I could show it to them whenever they want.
Yep.
As opposed to waiting for maybe one day Netflix or Hulu or whoever may bring it back. Maybe they won't. There are some movies that maybe you will never ever see again because it's not under your control. I like the idea that the stuff I wanted to watch, I have it. I can watch it whenever the hell I want, and I don't have to rely on someone else's whim to be able to see it. And I think that's the main key, the main takeaway from what Christopher Nolan and Guillermo del Toro were saying.
Absolutely.
You're putting art in the hands of these greedy ass companies instead of people who actually want to see it.
Yes.
That's the big issue. Breaking news. John's wife has just beaten Jeff Bezos to death with his own shoes.
I hope so.
One swift kick to the, might not have done it, right?
One swift kick to the jumblies if he's got it.
Yes. To the wiener rocket that he
Oh my gosh.
All right. Well,
All right.
I get the impression that Jeff Bezos may be a very lonely man sometimes. And according to the World Health Organization, or WHO,
I'm not getting involved.
It's best you sit this one out.
Yes.
The WHO thinks loneliness may be a global issue, you don't say.
Really?
And that couldn't possibly have been exacerbated by your ridiculous restrictions during COVID. Oh.
I don't know what you're talking about,
No
Steve.
way.
No way.
Steve, blasphemy. Like, why would you say that about the WHO? A government-funded organization that hates people. Oh, God.
And that loves our Chinese overlords. Steve, you should go right now into concentration. I mean, seriously, you'll get re-educated there.
Re-education.
Re-education, yeah.
Well, last week, I guess, at this point, the WHO actually launched a commission on social connection. And according to a news release, the aim is to address loneliness as a pressing health threat, promote social connection as a priority, and accelerate the scaling up of solutions in countries of all incomes.
That sounds like a bunch of BS.
They're not just actively helping white people anymore. Got it. Okay, cool. That's what that says to me.
I don't remember
gosh.
any people for that matter previously, but it is what it is. This new commission is going to run for 3 years.
Oh, good Lord.
And will examine how loneliness and social isolation can affect physical, mental, and emotional health. They say the effects can be just as bad as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. I didn't realize loneliness was bad for your lungs.
Well, there you go.
Or your immune system, or your throat.
Well, the immune system I could see, but Dr. Vivek Murthy, who is the U.S. Surgeon General, had this to say. He said, given the profound health and societal consequences of loneliness and isolation, we have an obligation to make the same investments in rebuilding the social fabric of society that we have made in addressing other global health concerns such as tobacco use, obesity, and the addiction crisis.
God, word
Gentle
salad.
persons, the issue I see here is all the stuff he mentions: tobacco use, obesity, addiction. That is all looking within yourself.
Correct.
For a solution.
Correct.
And I joked about this a little bit in pre-production.
Yeah.
I understand. I totally get being lonely is a serious issue.
Oh,
Yes.
sure.
There are lots of people who feel that way. And it's a cause of a lot of problems. I mean, it's not funny to laugh at loneliness can cause health issues.
Yes.
No doubt. Yep.
But just the way this is all coming about here,
Yeah.
Mhm.
not just the fact that it was a self-inflicted issue by the WHO and their, the CDC and all their stupid
Yes.
guidelines during COVID, but
Mhm.
loneliness is outside of yourself. You cannot cure loneliness
Mhm.
one person.
Yeah.
And this almost makes it sound like the WHO is like, okay, well, you and you all have to be friends with him now.
Yeah, because
Because he's lonely.
Yeah.
Because you live
We'll
next door to him, you
identify
have to
the-
like him.
I was just going to say, we're going to identify people on Facebook that are lonely, and then we're going to make sure that they get into a small group together. And wow.
But who's to say they want that small group? Like,
Well, yeah, and I will say this: like, I've benefited from a small group at my church over the last year and a half, 2 years. They have been nothing but spectacular people. You'll learn an awful lot about yourself, but more importantly, you're coming alongside people that are of like mind. Believe in the same things that you do, and all the kind of thing. You're pouring over. You're not only eating a meal together, but then you're pouring over scripture, and that's wonderful, and it's a great thing.
that's very positive. That is
Absolutely.
very
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah, and we're seeing and it's generational. You have people that are older, and then you have like your middle-aged folks, and then you've got your youth, like anywhere between 7 to 12, and then they've got, you have some babies that have just been born. So you got generational changes over the thing. And I think that's kind of what it's helping. It helps even those that are single and do feel lonely after a while, and that kind of a deal. It's helpful in that regard, being with family as well, even as annoying as it is with your in-laws, that kind of a deal, as we all celebrate in Thanksgiving. But for the Who to do it, I'm not talking about the rock band. I'm talking about
Yeah.
the most corrupt health organization that the world has ever seen.
The Gazan Health Ministry might
Yeah,
be just a
okay,
little
Okay, yeah.
I think they do
that,
take the
but,
cake.
And also the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
well, they're just incompetent. They're not
Yeah.
corrupt. They're just incompetent.
Where's the ha? There you
I
go.
just said it. Yeah. I mean, come on. It's like they've already they botched COVID.
Yeah.
They're going to now cure loneliness now? Give me a
No,
break.
they're not going to
No.
cure. There's no way that any of this is going to. They're going to do a
Yeah.
social study and come up with the exact things that they started their study with. I guarantee you, in 3 years, we'll post it right back on here. They are going to
I
use
can't
the
wait.
exact lines that they just and
As
it's going
bad
to
as
be written
smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
exactly the same thing. Like they're not gonna budge from what their thought process is to what their findings are.
But you better make sure to wear that mask when you get together.
Exactly. But the thing that this makes me think of is I wish maybe not the health organization, maybe just the world would focus a little bit more on mental health. And this is
Yes.
jobs. This is jobs. This is families. Like we need to start thinking outside the box, because if the WHO is saying that this is a huge thing and it's a detriment to our society, maybe we should start taking mental health a little more seriously. Me suffering from mental health, I need to start taking my mental health more seriously, because I was not doing well in my time off. I'll share this with you guys. I was not doing well at all. And the loneliness added to that. And it was really hard to do something very simple. I know you Steve and Matt, you are right there. You're a text message away. If I'm having a crisis, you guys would be right next to me. But mental health, for a lot of people, do not allow you to do that. So then you're stuck even further. So they're absolutely right that it is a huge issue, but it needs to be. I don't think it needs to be combated by the government. I think it needs to be combated by the citizens, and we can make it better if we move forward. And this goes to companies and big larger companies. They need to have these little commissions, like do what the WHO's doing, but do it on your local level. I think they would make a huge difference doing it that way.
I think your local community, Johnny, to your point, would be huge in that regard, because then it's like, I think back to the founding of the country, And the reason why it kind of grew really, really fast and was very successful is the fact that you had local communities coming together. Everybody knew each other.
Yep.
And so I think that the challenge that you've got is you've got people that move around. They're more mobile than ever before. Technology, although, has kind of bridged that gap a little bit in the fact that you're able to connect with people that are like, let's just say 3-4 hours away, maybe 3 or 4 states away, or further. But the problem is your local community, people don't really know who you are unless you go out of your way to talk to somebody. And for a lot of people, that's difficult. You're talking about mental health. That is really hard for a lot of folks to kind of bridge that gap. They use, I think, technology as a way to get over that ice breaking, which is always very awkward, obviously. But it's just something to think about more, I guess you could say, in that regard. You just have to when I met you guys, I met you guys through a mutual friend. You know, I had no idea you guys even existed until we ran to Sam, and Sam and I went to the same church together. And the next thing you know, been with you guys, friends for 20 some odd years plus, which was really amazing. But it took a while, right? I mean, you build it up over time and stuff like that. Local communities, I think, are going to be a help to that in that regard.
Oh, I totally agree. I think it's incumbent upon local communities to offer, maybe not put it on themselves, but offer opportunities for, like you were talking about, you have a small group. It's not going to be religion for everybody. It could be, sports. It could be, book clubs, whatever you want to, talk about.
Yeah, anything. Local community.
Allow the opportunities for groups. Have somebody say, I'd like to have this hall for an hour once every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I can have a book club together, and people who like to read can come together. And things like that. Opportunities to be in groups with people who have similar interests for you, and then that way you can not be lonely, and it's not the government or organizations like the WHO, like, oh, you're gonna die if you're lonely. You gotta make a friend. We're gonna give you 5 of them.
The only thing the government should do in this aspect of talking about local community is offer small grants to people that want to do things like that and help start them. It's the only thing the government should do. Nothing like they should not show up. They should not put their name on it. They should offer small little things to incentivize people to do these things. And that's how the government can help solve this problem, by getting with people. But nothing else. Like, don't go to a government-funded. Trust me, don't go. It's not good.
Don't go to a government-funded small group. You never know what you might be taught.
You'll be in the Men in Black immediately.
We won't be fooled again. All right, before we get to topic number 3, just a reminder to all you fools out there, the Two Noobs Talking.wordpress.com is the website where you can find all our old episodes online. Links as well to all the audio podcast sites
a
where
little
you
bit
can
of
find
Philly
us.
just slipped out of them.
Yeah, right. Right. We crossed many waters to be here at Wawa.
That's right.
Or if you don't find your favorite podcasting station there, you can also take our RSS feed and put that in the podcatcher. Do with it as you will.
Yes.
No questions asked. That's
There
Two
you
Noobs
go.
Talking.wordpress.com.
We're somewhere, everywhere, and kind of all over the place. So
we're taking
there you
over the
go.
world, people.
yes. And drop comments. If you're lonely, drop some comments. We'll talk to you.
Yeah,
Trust me,
seriously.
we'll talk to you.
We'll respond back to you. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're very lonely here on Two Noobs.
We got 3 of us, and we're still lonely.
Right. Yeah. All right. Now, gentlemen, raise your hand if you've ever been to the ER on a holiday.
No.
Then why the hell did you raise your hand, dumbass?
Because I was anticipating the answer of like, I've been to the ER with a broken arm, but then you said during a holiday. I'm like, oh no.
Wait for the question to you
I know. Yeah.
As a lawyer, you would make a horrible deponent because one of the most important things we tell people who are going into a deposition is wait for the question to be asked before you answer it.
Got it.
Think about the question.
And it's also because they're slimy, and they'll throw in when last time you were at the ER on a holiday after you killed your grandmother, and you'd be like, "Yeah, me."
Say no if no.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so then I take it none of you has been to the ER on a holiday. Okay.
No,
good.
I have not.
Now that we have that cleared up, Matt, it was funny before Thanksgiving to see this article on Yahoo Life, which is explaining why some people end up in the ER on Thanksgiving.
Mm.
And it said somewhere in here that it was the... Where is it? According to the... Oh, I'm sorry. It was fires. It wasn't... I thought it was 3 times more people go to the ER on Thanksgiving.
Oh,
than
okay.
Day, but I was mistaken.
Okay.
But it was noted Dr. Poonam Desai, who is an osteopathic physician, mentioned in the article that post-Thanksgiving dinner is when we usually see a surge in the ER.
Oh, wow.
We see lots of cuts, and this is a different quote, Dr. Kelly Doherty, who was a healthcare clinical instructor at the Ronald O. Perelman Department of Emergency Medicine, or ROPDEM at NYU. The quote is, "We see a lot of cuts in the ER, not only from knives, but also from people slicing their fingers on the lid of a can while opening it."
Oh. Yeah.
You gotta think just straight away. Like, that would be normal for when everybody is in the kitchen cooking, holiday, family. Not many people are used to having a culinary adventure during this time. Like, yes, this is so you would definitely, you're adding more people to a very simple problem in the kitchen of cutting your finger or cutting your hand on a can or burning yourself. So I would expect that, yes, there would be a rise, but not as like as you read this article even further. I didn't expect all this.
Yeah, well, I mean, thinking also too, like, how about a turkey? You're taking it out of the oven and you drop it. You're talking like these turkeys are like 8-10 pounds.
Yeah, you can break a foot, you can burn yourself.
We had one. We had a 15-pounder.
25.
Wow. Yeah.
Turkeys
One
are
of the
big.
things, yeah, they are. One of the things that got me in this article was was how to stay safe on the cuts level, and it's like carve away from yourself, never toward yourself. Shouldn't you be learning that at a young age?
And
We
why
were learning on Yahoo to tell us that.
Why isn't the person that normally cooks handling the knife anyway? Like, why are you just giving it over to? Why are you giving it to Uncle Bob, who probably hasn't wielded a knife in 13 years? And like,
Let me see how I can do
carve
this.
the turkey right into his chest. Like, Bob, sit down. We don't need you. We can get this turkey out without you.
My daughter was cutting, I forget what she was cutting yesterday, but she was cutting something with a knife, a sharp knife, and I observed it, and she's 12, and I saw her cutting towards her fingers, and I said, that is that's not the right way. Stop. Hold it this way and cut away from the fingers.
Yes.
Okay? She's learning at a young age from a responsible adult the proper way to use a knife. Why are people
That's what I'm saying.
that you don't point the knife towards yourself when using it and then ending up in the ER on Thanksgiving? Maybe it's inexperience, as John says. I don't know.
How about taking the pie out of the oven? Make sure to have oven mitts on your hands at all times when taking something that's being cooked at 350 degrees. Just saying. Right? I mean, that's
that's another reason in here for the ER trips was burns.
Burns, yeah.
They didn't specifically mention being a dumbass and grabbing hot pans without an oven mitt. What they do mention is burns caused by out of control flames in the kitchen. Thanksgiving, apparently, this was what I was thinking of. Thanksgiving is the peak day for home cooking fires. With more than 3 times the daily average.
Yeah. Well, that's because 3 times the amount of people are cooking in their kitchen. So. My wife
Very
has this.
true.
My wife has a saying, and I love this saying about people and cooking videos on the internet and everything. This is why I do not eat at other people's houses. Not meaning that everybody we know can't cook, but if you law of average, you take all your friends, you've got a legit chance that half of them don't know what they're doing.
So if a party of 8, 4 people have no clue how to cook. I mean, that makes sense.
I've run this statistics throughout my entire life. I've met a ton of people in my life that cannot, that don't even know why we have that wing of our house, and what it's there for. Like,
Sure.
I can imagine it. I can cook, thankfully.
Yeah, same.
Me
Yeah.
too.
So good. So
Yeah.
3. So we're 3 for 3. That's 100%. That is way above national
That
average.
is way above the
Yes,
national
yeah.
average.
Well, we overachieve all the time. So
Well, we try.
that's
at
what we
least.
do.
I also think the 3 of us are probably not dumb enough to try and deep fry a turkey.
No, I will not. I will not.
That to me doesn't sound appealing at all.
Nope.
It actually sounds appealing. Not the
I want
process.
it.
The
I've
end
had
result.
it. I've eaten it, but no, I will not. I will not do it.
Yeah.
There's just no
Okay.
reason for that. I'd rather. I saw the fire department, the local fire department in Philadelphia, did a
Kind of like a public service announcement? Or?
Yeah, like a run through on how to do it, and they did it in their gear, and they had this cool little design, and they did, and it let them fire like all of them, but it was in a very safe environment.
Controlled environment, yeah.
Yes, if I've got the fire department cooking that turkey for me, I'm great. I have no problem. I'm not going to blow up the neighborhood. That's not me. That's not how I roll.
Yeah, 100%.
No, get down.
I feel you. I feel it. But I mean, people do this near their house, and then the flames jump up and they catch fire. It's all because water and oil and all that stuff. But I would never do. The end result, I'm sure I've never had it, but I'm sure the end result is great.
Fantastic.
But
there you go.
The process scares the hell out of me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, moving on. Another main reason for trips to the ER on Thanksgiving: abdominal pain.
Yeah, overeating.
And the most common culprits, apparently, on Thanksgiving, as noted, are overindulging and food poisoning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
That
food
makes
poisoning,
sense.
I can see, going to John's point. Not everyone can cook, and more
not
people
everybody.
than normal are cooking.
Mm-hmm.
I
You
actually
cook that
did
turkey
read,
right. Look out.
Yeah, I did read somewhere. I forget if it was a comment or an article as a different issue, but somebody said they were sick every Christmas, and they finally realized it's because the person who was cooking the meals was undercooking the meat.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
So
That's
food
real.
poisoning every Christmas.
Every Christmas you get food poisoning. Every Thanksgiving you get food poisoning.
Yeah.
Because the obscure aunt makes raw chicken for her side dish.
Oh, that's cooked. Don't worry about it. It's pink over there. Yeah.
I eat it all the time. I've been in the hospital 375 days in a row.
We had a case out in Illinois.
Oh no.
It had to do with food casing, and our client was a butcher from overseas, Liechtenstein, actually.
Oh, cool.
And he told a story about how, so this is like a deli food casing. So you put raw meat in it and you cook it in the casing, and you get the smoky flavor and all that.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
And he's like, yeah, I like to dip my finger like cookie dough in the raw emulsion. And
Oh
like,
no. Oh no. Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah. So the food poisoning I get.
Yeah.
If you are going to the ER because you ate too damn much, how sick are you?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, seriously.
That's a sense of self. That falls right in line with our narcissistic society we talk about all the time. It's you're not even knowing yourself. You just shoved 8 pounds of turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, cream beans down, and you're like, I don't feel right. No, bleep it.
Well,
bleep, because you.
No kidding.
Like, no kidding. I ate more than average for dinner on Thanksgiving, and yeah, it was uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
I did the same. I
whatever
did the same.
happened to the burp and the that was good. Like now everybody's like, go to the ER because my stomach's bigger than it was. It's because we're so dumb and in our phones we don't realize we're even doing things anymore.
I mean, I agree with you. I ate probably more than I normally would at a dinner on Thanksgiving, but I could tell. I'm like, okay, my stomach is telling me
I'm not hungry.
no more.
Slow down.
I will cease eating. Yeah, I'm gonna have to sit up a little bit, and
Yeah.
you know, it's an uncomfortable feeling. I know it will pass, but I know not to stuff any more food in my fat face.
Exactly.
Exactly.
What's
Yeah.
wrong with people?
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
they don't have a sense of self. They do not realize that if they don't have that same thing that we have, is where we're looking at that. We're like, I'll eat that whole thing. I need to slow down.
I'll never forget it. John Madden and Pat Summerall, you know, they would do the Thanksgiving Day games, right,
Yep.
guys? And they have this tremendous spread of food.
Oh yeah.
And it's just the two of them sitting there. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I hope they don't. They don't, obviously, but
Yeah, it's crew. You don't see the
Yeah,
crew.
it's for
but-
the
you don't
crew,
see,
sure,
right, it's
yeah.
for the entire crew. But yeah, it just kind of gets it, you know, you put it right into that perspective, right, Steve and John? You just have to just slow down and enjoy the meal and just talk more than you eat. You don't have to
Right.
eat everything, for God's sakes. You know, that's why
Right.
there's things called leftovers, which are always welcomed on Black Friday
Yes.
and Saturday and Sunday, you know, Thanksgiving weekend for sure.
Well, I thought you were going to go to the time when John Madden, his famous turducken, you know,
Duckin'.
turkey with the duck,
Cuts
and
it right
chicken,
down the middle with his hand.
with his hand.
I love it.
Yeah, I think he got complaints from like PETA or something for that as well.
Yeah, he did.
Very strange.
Yeah.
And it was kind of sickening. But it's funny that you mentioned talking at the dinner table, because another one of the things in this article here is how you get heart palpitations from the stress.
Oh,
Because the holidays can be a stressful time for many of us. So we tend to have an uptick in stress-related symptoms such as anxiety and
Yeah.
panic attacks. I don't know about
Yeah.
you guys. My Thanksgiving went off without much of a
Yeah.
political discussion at all. So no
Thank God.
issues, no
yeah.
no.
Other
no
than my
stress at
lovely
the
mother
table.
complaining, which she has every right to,
Yes.
we were fine.
Yes.
We were okay. Yeah.
It's a free country.
We were good.
Say whatever you want, Mama Craig. You were protected. Say
Exactly.
whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, folks, if you can't handle the discussion, just don't partake.
Yeah.
And that
It's
is
simple as that.
the important part that we've tried to stress over the many years, and it's funny that we end this segment on that. Is it's a discussion. It's not a political. Nobody is standing on a nobody, and I know this. Even the internet, who likes to say that they're all standing on this, they will die on this political hill. Nobody is, because I've watched people over the last 3 years fall off their hills and create new hills, and fall off them and create new ones. It's all a political. If you don't want to have a political discussion, do not partake. If you want to have a political
Yeah.
discussion, please have facts, because that helps when,
Yeah,
when
right.
you're having a political
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
if you don't want to have a political discussion, turn to the kids. Ask them how they're doing. You know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Or watch
doubt-
the Cowboys play shitty football. You've got choices. You have choices.
I was just gonna say, if you turn to a 5-year-old and say, "How are you doing, Timmy?" and he goes, "Fuck Joe Biden," well, then you might have a problem.
Well,
But, you know.
he gets indicted king, and he gets turkey first.
Oh,
True,
my
he
God.
gets the gravy all to himself.
There
That's
you
very
go.
true.
Exactly.
There you go.
Being as how we just passed Thanksgiving 2023 and our Jam It In There segment coming up for topic 4 is football related, we were all just reminiscing about the glorious Leon Lett game,
Yeah.
where for some bizarre reason it was snowing in Dallas through the hole in the stupid ass roof of Texas Stadium or whatever it was.
Which is very small compared to the size of that roof.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Pete Stoyanovich lines up for a field goal. Doug Peterson holding, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
Dougie
Yeah.
P.
Dallas blocked the field. This was at the end of the game. Dallas blocked the field goal.
Yeah.
All they had to do was leave it alone, but Leon Lett just decided to go stumbling and bumbling after that ball, made contact, kicked it. Dolphins recover at the 1. So
Yeah.
with the chip shot field goal for Stoyanovich, Dolphins win the game.
It was great.
My God, was that magnificent.
Oh,
Oh, fantastic. But
fun times.
we digress. Jam it in there. Speaking of reminiscing, Tom Brady is not too impressed with the NFL these days, gents. He was on the Stephen A. Smith show.
Don't
where
watch
he-
that, by the way.
yeah.
Try not
watch
to,
it.
I just tried not to throw up in my mouth when he said
Yeah.
I
that.
watch it after the Cowboy loss
Yes,
because that's when it's fun.
that's when it's
Yes,
funny.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the only
It's
time I
always
like
funny
him.
to see. It's funny, always funny to see the video of him where it just pans to his face
Yeah.
and then he starts cackling. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
But Mr. Brady had this to say about today's NFL. I think there's a lot of mediocrity in today's NFL. I don't see the excellence that I saw in the past. He said, I think the coaching isn't as good as it was. I don't think the development of young players is as good as it was. I don't think the schemes are as good as they were. I think the rules have allowed a lot of bad habits to get into the actual performance of the game. So I think the product, in my opinion, is less than what it's been. He also had to say offensive players need to protect themselves. It's not up to a defensive player to protect an offensive player. A defensive player needs to protect himself. I think a lot of the ways the rules have come into play have allowed this. You can essentially play carefree, and then if anyone hits you hard, there's a penalty, and it's very different than when I was playing. It's funny coming from a guy who benefited from numerous roughing the passer calls of questionable nature. But
I would simply say that Tom Brady's play over the last 20 years has caused the NFL that is. All those rule changes were to protect him. And he's standing up here. I agree with some of the things he says, but I don't agree with the coaching or the players. I think the RPO has changed the game. I don't think it's made it mediocre. I actually kind of dig the RPO when it's done right, a la Jalen Hurts and Philadelphia Eagles, and Tua and the Miami Dolphins. The RPO was really cool to watch. I don't agree that it's mediocre. There are certain positions that are mediocre, but I would blame Tom Brady for the reason that he's saying it's mediocre, for the excessive flags when things didn't go his way.
I mean, he is the reason for the tuck rule.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I can disagree with me, but that's what I feel.
Well, Matt went on a famous rant last week about the state of the NFL. Or was it 2 weeks ago? I don't even remember at this point. Even though the topic was Taylor Swift.
But no.
So I'm curious to hear Matt's perspective on what Tom Brady had to say here.
No, yeah, I think there's a lot of valid points to it, to be perfectly honest. But I also see, Steve, what you said at the top. He's benefited from a lot of roughing the passer calls that went, his team's way. And because that's, I think, the NFL realized what they had was one of the greatest to ever lace it up. I said one of the greatest, not the greatest, one of the greatest.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's always a soft spot for number 16 in my heart,
Yes.
or the 49ers. But with that being said, I will say that the play has definitely, it is not what it once was, for sure. 20 years ago, it was more physical, no question about it. The RPO has been good, but everybody runs it, and everybody's doing it now. And I think what made the NFL great back in its heyday is like you have Washington with the three receivers. You had the Giants; they were always good at running the football with the occasional pass. There was always the team identity. With everybody doing the RPO or some version of it, no one has a team identity anymore. It's just a matter of who's at the most talented positions.
Totally
That's my
agree
argument.
with you on that one. Yeah, totally agree.
So it's kind of like, all right, well, if everyone's running the same offense, virtually the same offense, it's only the teams that like have the really good skill quality position players that get into the playoffs and go on. You don't see a team that is going to run it 30 to 40 times. You don't see a team that's going to mix it up. You don't see a good play action pass ever again. I look back at some of the games, Atlanta, Minnesota, 98 NFC Championship game. It's a totally different NFL, completely different. There's a fullback, there's a running back. There's like, what the hell's going on back there? There's two people in the backfield behind the quarterback. What the hell? It's totally different.
And they're not two tight ends like Miami just ran.
Yeah. So I think there's some validity to it. And I think also too, I think the young players are definitely struggling. There's no question about it. They're not as good as as
Fundamentally,
highly touted.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
you can
I
only
think
look to the Jets as an example. I mean, the Jets are just
yeah,
awful right now because they're down to their third string quarterback, and he's just not NFL worthy. Period.
I think part of the young players and the lack of development, I think, is a direct result of the collective bargaining
Yeah,
that
Hmm.
they've limited like practice times, and so you
which
you
Hmm.
don't have
yeah,
the time to put in anymore.
yeah, which I can't. I still can't get over that CBA. That to me is just so
It's ridiculous.
egregious. Yeah, it's
It's
egregious.
I, I,
Yeah.
it's
I
a
understand the idea that you need to protect, you're trying to prevent
Mhm.
injuries. You don't
Oh,
want
for sure.
them beating the hell out of each other through a hot summer. But I also think there were ways to do that besides just cutting the amount of
Yeah, you
time,
gotta put
Yeah.
work in.
right?
You
Like,
gotta at least allow them to put some type of work in if you want them to
Yeah.
be. You're asking them to play in a short amount of time when their off season is longer than their on season.
Yeah.
You're
Mhm.
asking them to do less in their off season, but produce in the on season. It doesn't make any sense because isn't it? I'm totally paraphrasing this quote. Isn't it like weak time or strong times create weak people and weak whatever that
Yeah.
quote is? That if you're not allowed, I don't know the quote off the top of my head, but if you're not allowing them to put in the work, and that doesn't
Yeah.
mean con, contact all the time.
Mhm.
Why
right.
not run simulations? Why not use the concept of flag football? It seems like the NFL doesn't want to think outside the box. So when they do collective bargaining, they're just like, oh, you can't do that. Well, isn't there an
Yeah.
alternative to that? You just
Mm.
I
cancel
think
that.
what suffers, and Seth Joyner complains about this, and is
Mhm.
fundamentals.
Yeah.
Yes.
You do, because you have such a limited time window. You can't focus on the fundamentals anymore. You got to
Yes.
get to the advanced stuff that they need to know for Sunday's game.
Mhm.
You
Yes.
Mhm.
can't go into this is how you properly wrap somebody up to tackle them.
You
Yeah.
can't teach that because you got to teach someone when you run across the formation, you got to set before we can snap the ball. So you got to focus on fast guy has to learn that instead of learning what a curl route is. So when he
Mhm.
runs a curl route, normally an interception is thrown. If you look at that statistically, that happens all the time. Like the really fast guy, when he tries to run a intermediate route, it's a disaster because of
Yeah.
fundamentals. They're not
Yeah.
Right.
able to teach these fundamentals.
Add
Yeah.
in the Thursday night games, and you have a disaster as well.
Well, look what they did just this weekend. Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
Like, why are we playing football? What? Like, stop it!
Mhm.
The NFL is
Oversaturation.
so dumb.
Yeah.
Right. Overall, I think there are parts of the game that are better now than they were 20 years ago, because I
Mhm.
could see, footage from 20 years ago, and I think the guys now are more athletic than they were then.
Yes,
100.
absolutely.
And so there are facets that have improved, but at the same time, I do agree with Brady on some things have
Mhm.
declined.
Yeah.
And I think officiating is part of it.
Oh yeah.
Lack of fundamentals is part of it. I think there are a lot of things. Just interesting to hear it from his mouth.
Yes.
Yes.
And especially he's only a year retired. So
Yeah.
like this isn't a guy who played 30 years ago lamenting like, oh,
Yeah.
well, it's changed. This is a
Mhm.
guy who was playing last year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
the hell?
Like,
Crazy.
almost
Crazy.
like he retired just to shit on it.
Yeah, the greatest of all time, considered to be the greatest of all time in the league, and he's bashing it. That's fascinating.
Wow.
In my day, 600 days ago.
Oh.
That was yesterday. In my day, it was better.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of old people, the second
Yes.
story, and I jam it in there segment.
This was great.
So
This is great.
we got a notification. The Eagles made a roster move
Yes.
2 weeks ago, which in and of itself was, interesting. Who did they cut? Well, they cut a gentleman by the name of Bernard Williams,
Yep.
who happens to be 51 years old. Last played on the team in 1994.
Yes.
Wow.
He's a first-round draft pick for the team.
God,
Yes.
it was horrible.
He
Yeah.
was suspended before the 95 season for
It's
testing
probably 'cause he was
positive for
high.
marijuana. Well,
Yeah.
tested positive for marijuana.
Yeah.
And during the suspension, he testified. He tested positive again.
Yep.
And so he never ended up being reinstated into the league. He kept playing. He played in the XFL. He played in the Canadian Football League. He played in the Arena Football League.
Wow.
But apparently nobody realized he was still a member of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Or he was their supplier and they didn't want to let him go.
So I have a query in that regard. Who is responsible for not seeing that after, like, Lurie bought the team, right? You would think.
95, he bought the team, yeah.
So what's going on there? Like, who, like, I don't understand, like, why he was on the actual roster.
It doesn't make any sense.
And nobody brought this up. No one within the walls of the NovaCare complex. Oh, look at here. Oh my God, we don't have this guy on here. How old is he? He was 51.
Well, it's good that you reminded me that Lurie bought the team in 95 because he was suspended in 95. So at the time Lurie bought the team, he still theoretically would have factored into the team's plans. And so there wouldn't have been a flag other than, hey, by the way, this guy is suspended for the time being.
Yep.
For drug issues.
Yep.
So at that point, I could see it. I don't know how the paperwork by the time Howie Roseman is GM, there's probably nothing in the office to tell him that this guy is actively rostered.
The only thing I can think of is that there must have been a post-it note somewhere on some document in that facility that fell off, or something like that, saying like, oh, we got to release this guy.
Right.
And yet, and how did the other leagues not know? Because I would thought, like, if you're leaving one league, like you're not playing for a specific team, you're granted a release. I would think that would have been checked.
Wouldn't you have to give that to the other league? Because they can't just it's never going to happen. But the XFL can't say, hey, Jalen, come play with us. As he's a rostered member of the NFL. Like, the XFL couldn't sign him. There'd be some kind of legal. I know that's a big time. We're talking about very small fish here.
I would think
wouldn't
that's
there be
probably
a stamp?
It's probably in the contract.
Yeah.
It's probably like in his contract. You're not allowed to play for anybody else.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. Like, there would have to be some kind of legal stamp on that, I would think. But
I don't know.
Who knows? Well, apparently this was found by the league, who said, hey, we're cleaning up some old stuff. You might want to release this guy.
That scares me that they're cleaning up some old stuff 29 years ago. Like, and we expected to put a product out tomorrow?
Can you imagine, like, the amount of dust that must have been in that carton? I mean, my God, that must have been just unbelievable. 29 years ago.
Howie Roseman became GM when?
Oh, gosh. Well, he was, I think he took over after Banner.
Yeah, after
and then Chip Kelly sent him into the basement, basically, for a year.
Right, so Kelly sent him out in 2015, so he would have been, I want to say he became GM in like 2011?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, because Banner was pretty much like from 90.
So let's blame Chip Kelly for this, because it'll just be easy if we just do that. So it's Chip Kelly's fault. All right.
Well, as for Williams, he received a message from a friend of his who was a scout for the Packers, and it was said, hey, your name just came across the transaction wire. And was told, awesome. The Eagles released you. And Williams said, I had some kind of idea, but they never released me, and I always wondered what happened with that. When I went to Canada, the Eagles kept my rights through all of that. They never released my rights, but I had no idea I was still on the roster 29 years later.
That's
awesome.
Wild. That's a great story.
So he was made aware of it when he went to Canada to play in the Canadian Football League because of what we said. There has to be some kind of rights or date, there has to be some connection to the NFL.
He had the thought, but it nothing ever came
his
of
fault.
it.
It's not his fault.
It's going to be like the agents or Chip Kelly. I'm going to blame it on Chip Kelly.
Yeah, it's totally Chip Kelly's fault, but yeah.
Well, you're never too young. I mean, wasn't there a 50-year-old who played college football one year?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. And speaking of old people.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Here's our last part of this segment.
This guy.
Now, I believe we're all here Barry Sanders fans. Yes?
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
Heck yeah.
One of the greatest running backs of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
Better than Emmett by far. Glenn. Sorry. Moving on.
He's definitely better than Emmett. He's definitely
Emmett was
better
good,
than
but he had the benefit of that offensive line in Dallas. Yeah. was working
Yeah.
by himself,
Oh yeah.
and was a human highlight reel. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there was a Barry Sanders documentary that recently came out called Bye Bye Barry.
Mm.
And one of the themes of that documentary was that the Lions were never good enough to get the best running back ever, perhaps, to a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And one of the key reasons for that was the mention that, well, Detroit Lions never had a star quarterback in that time frame.
Mm.
And although his name was never mentioned in the documentary, Scott Mitchell, former Lions quarterback, took that personally
Oh wow.
and had this to say
course he
on his
would.
social media. I am so tired of hearing how I was the reason that Barry Sanders never won a Super Bowl, he said on Facebook. I'm so tired of hearing how I was not a good quarterback. My only response is, F you all.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
Oh my.
Bottom
So,
line,
yeah, go
Barry
ahead.
Sanders had everything in Detroit. Everyone loved him. Everything was built for Barry to succeed. In his 10-year career, he won one playoff game, and the only reason he didn't win more was everyone else was the problem. How many yards did Barry have in the playoffs in 94, 95, 97? I'll give you a hint, not very many. We are all to blame for not winning a Super Bowl in Detroit, even Barry Sanders. I will believe until I die that had we given more time and patience with the offense we had and the talent we had, we could have made a deep run in the playoffs and competed to win a Super Bowl.
Fascinating, coming from a guy that threw 81 career interceptions, 57 of which was in 5 years in Detroit. So he was averaging
Yikes.
over 10 interceptions a season.
Yikes.
That's fascinating.
Now, where
Very
was he
fascinating.
before Detroit? Because the article, this is a NBC Sport.
No idea. I
This
want
was
to
a
see.
Yahoo
was-
Sports article.
he
He
was-
came as a free agent.
Yeah,
he
I want to
was
see.
he was Dan Marino's backup, actually.
Yeah, Miami. Okay,
Ah.
that's where I was going. Good. Thank you, Matt.
He was Miami
Feel good about
for
myself over
3
here.
years. Marino in 93 got hurt. He started in 7 games, was 3-4, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, this guy can throw 57% of his passes complete."
I wonder if he started in the Leon Lett game.
He might have.
No, I don't know.
93. It was 93.
Was it 93? It
It
might
was
have been.
30 years ago.
So
Yep.
Detroit signed him to like a huge contract,
Mm-hmm.
massive deal, and they felt like, "Oh, this guy's going to be the big 27-30 regular season in Detroit in his career."
So it is
He
his
did
fault.
throw for a ton of yards, 12,000 yards in his career, but 56% completion percentage. For a guy that, I don't know how much it was, or maybe I'll check it in post how much he signed for.
Mhm.
He was one of the biggest free agent signings I can remember, like even back then. It was like, oh God, they got Scott Mitchell. He's like an up and comer. He's going to do blah 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 blah. And you pair him with Barry Sanders and and you only point to that wild card game, right, guys? At the vet. You remember we picked him off so many times? It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't just all Barry. I mean, we knew we had to focus on Barry Sanders, no question about it, because Barry was, I don't know, one of the greatest ever in the running back position. So if we stop him, that meant that Scott Mitchell had to beat us. You think Scott Mitchell's
Exactly.
going to beat the Eagles in Veterans Stadium? Give me a break.
Well, let me, as I recall, the Lions scored a crap load of points in that game,
Yes,
though.
they did.
Mhm.
They did.
It was 59 to, I don't remember,
It was
38
58-37.
58-37.
Yeah.
They scored 37 points.
Yeah.
Um,
The only problem with that
Maybe-
is we were up like 49 to 7. At
I
one
agree,
point.
but
Yeah.
my question is, nobody seems to be talking about the defense
Yeah.
that let Rodney Peete,
Yes.
Yeah.
like post Lions Rodney Peete,
Yeah.
throw all over
Yeah.
the field that day.
Yeah.
The reason I asked about Mitchell being a free agent was because another part of his little rant
Mhm.
was that the coach of the Lions at the time, Wayne Fonts, didn't have his back.
Of course.
Apparently,
Yeah.
Fonts told Sanders he
Okay.
wanted Joe Montana or Warren Moon
Why
for
wouldn't you?
quarterback.
But why wouldn't you over Scott Mitchell?
Right. And this was the time Montana was leaving the 49ers. He
Very
eventually ended up
true.
on the Chiefs.
Yep. And
He
Warren
wanted
went
Montana
from
or Moon.
Houston
Houston.
to Minnesota.
That's right. Um, But Lions GM at the time, Chuck Schmidt, thought both of them were too old.
Well, that's egg on
Now-
his
Well,
face.
yeah. Yeah, Joe
I don't
Montana
know if-
coming off the knees and the back. That was the biggest
True.
thing with him back
Yeah.
in the day. I don't know how you don't take a flyer on him.
On
honestly.
either of them over Scott Mitchell, absolutely. I can understand why Scott Mitchell's bitter because there's
mean,
a
he's
million
younger.
quarterbacks they should have taken over him. I totally get why.
The
he's
only
bitter.
reason I could think that Detroit possibly could have decided on Mitchell was because he was a younger kid,
Yeah.
and it's like
And
you're
money.
pairing him with and money.
They did not have the money back then.
Oh boy, when
Um,
you had, well, you have like a Hall of Famer, you know, as soon to be, and two of them, possibly two of them on the market. I don't know how you don't at least look at it. You know what I
This
mean?
isn't this
Go
isn't
ahead,
just
Dan.
a Barry Sanders problem. They've won one playoff game since the
Yeah.
Kennedy assassination. This is
Yeah.
this is not just a Barry Sanders problem.
Yeah.
They're good now, and it's the first time they could possibly win a playoff game since Barry. That's just a lot about the organization, and
Yeah.
No question.
Barry might have not just won because he played for a shitty organization.
Mhm.
That's was going to be my point was even if they sign Montana or Moon, you pick either one.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the difference between them
No.
being what they were and
No.
going to the Super Bowl?
Well,
I mean, again, Rodney Pete, post Lions, Rodney Pete was
Yeah.
throwing all over that defense in '95.
Yep.
yeah.
Like,
The only counterpoint I would say would be like Montana to the Chiefs, and he got into the AFC Championship game. So I mean, there's a couple of wins there in the playoffs. But
that's
to your
also
point,
like saying Wayne Gretzky. Like you stick a Wayne Gretzky on any hockey team, they might be a first round. They might
Yeah.
win the first round. You know what I mean? Montana's that good, far better than Mitchell could even think he was.
yeah, that's such a shame with Scott. Oh, there, pal.
I
There,
hate
there.
that. You're bitter because you sucked. I get it. You were great at Madden. You were absolutely great at Madden.
There you go.
well, the really sad part was I had initially, when I saw the article, confused him with Gus Frerotte, who
Yes.
I believe he was a Lion at the time. He banged his head on the he did the mat. He banged his head on the wall.
Yeah, that was
Just
Washington,
scoring
but I hear
touchdown.
what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
yeah,
with
yeah,
Washington.
yeah.
Yeah.
I believe at one point he was a Lion.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he was like a
Um,
backup to Eric Kramer or something
But
like that.
that's
yeah.
exactly Scott Mitchell is a random white backup quarterback in the NFL in the time where all the quarterbacks were the same as him. They were all 6'3" or 6'4". They were all from the University of whatever you want to call it. It was all cookie cutter, and none of them were good.
All I keep thinking now that it was like that they were looking at Montana. Could you imagine Joe Montana in a Detroit Lions uniform?
And
That
they
was
had,
blue.
A
but
Chiefs
did-
uniform.
if they
also.
had Herman Moore, man, that would have been fun to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know where Herman fell in that time frame. I think he was a part of Scott Mitchell, but I'm not
He
sure.
was.
I don't
I-
remember where he was.
absolutely. I
He was,
absolutely think
yeah.
he was part of that team.
That
was.
would have been talk about the original AJ Brown and the original Terrell Owens. Could you imagine short passes from Montana to Herman Moore? Be
Yeah.
shrugging people all over the place. That'd be
Crazy.
great.
Yeah. I mean, they had a decent team, but yeah, it's more organizational than anything else with Detroit.
Yeah.
More than anything. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how they do now. But
Yeah, well, I'm not holding my breath that they're going to do well, given they just shit the bed against Green Bay
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving.
yeah.
That was not a pretty sight.
Yeah.
No.
At least I got my points out of David Montgomery. Thank
That was that was one of those losses. I think I said it when I was watching the game. That is one of those ugly losses in the middle of the season that you might not recover from. Like that's one of those. Ooh, they beat you. Ugh. Like
Yeah.
it's just sticky icky kind of thing. Like how
Mhm.
did
As-
Jordan Love even put points on you?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was not Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre
Yes,
No.
this
on
was-
Thanksgiving,
this was
ladies
not
and
good.
gentlemen.
This was not good.
This is a quarterback who people in Green Bay were even questioning whether he had a future with this team. So, yeah,
We'll see.
not good. I didn't actually watch much of the game. I preferred to go with the National Dog Show on NBC.
Well, that's top quality talent. there.
Which
There you go.
Which we were rooting for a Great Dane who was about the size of a miniature pony you could have ridden around the ring in that thing. My
Imagine.
God, was that thing huge. And I can't believe the judge wasn't too scared not to pick him.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be like, it's going to the big, huge dog.
Huge
The one
animal
looks
over
like
there.
He's gonna eat me.
Yeah.
One gulp, gone. Well, with one gulp, we have finished episode 165 of Two Noobs Talking. We are so happy to have John Tracy back.
Yeah, man.
It's not just me, Matt, and the puppet rambling on.
I mean, the puppet
Taylor
was
Swift,
far
thank
more
God.
entertaining than me. Though.
But at
We
least
will
he had a
see
better
the puppet
mustache.
back.
There you go. There you go.
The puppet will
All
be
right.
back.
Well, do we now that we are now entering officially the Christmas season, do we want to leave any of our listeners and viewers with some choice holiday words, or are we just gonna,
Absolutely not. Come back next week and we'll talk to you again.
Yeah, exactly. Heading towards the end of the year. Can't believe it. Amazing.
All right. Well, to paraphrase John, screw you, and we will see you next week for episode 166.
Hey everyone, thank you for spending time with us here at Two Noobs Talking. If you want more information on what Two Noobs Talking is exactly, the good news is we have a website address. It's located at twonoobstalking.wordpress.com. Links to all of our previous episodes are there, along with some interesting information about the terrific trio of hosts. Please feel free to make a comment about this week's episode too. We would love to hear what you have to say. Have a great week, and we hope to have you back next week for another great episode of Two Noobs Talking. Take care.